This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman and Riley Smith. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin Hoffman.
Well, good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Today is Wednesday, May the 18th, 2022. Thanks for joining us. Coming up in this show, our intern Averie Haskell visits with the folks at Iowa Renewable Fuels Association and the Iowa Biodiesel Board. I will talk with Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig. We'll also have a look at your ag weather outlook. But first, let's run down the markets. It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net. Well, we're at the end of the trading day here for Wednesday, and boy, those markets look like they called Mike Tyson a sissy today. And we're going to talk with Jim McCormick of agmarket.net. Jim, what happened out there today?
It was brutal, Dustin, plain and simple. I'm not going to pull a punch. It was definitely brutal. Most of this was a risk-off mentality driven by the equity markets. It doesn't matter which market you like to watch. The S&P, the Dow, the NASDAQ, they're all down between 3.5%, 4%. Plain and simple, we had some really concerning earnings from Walmart and Target, showing that the consumer is definitely feeling pinched by these higher food prices or just inflation in general, and that just kind of swelled across the equities, across the energies, into pretty much most of the livestock and grain complex, as the traders who've been quite long most of these commodities took some money off the table as they're trying to find shelter and safe haven assets.
You know, and that's something we talked about in the past several weeks, you know, both on the podcast and on here, Jim, is about how the fact that coming out of COVID, people were still willing to spend because we were getting life back, but you knew in the back of your mind that sometime soon this inflation was going to start to pinch things back a little more. And it looks like that may be the start of that case, huh?
It definitely looks like it right now. I mean, in general, I was hopeful that maybe something could do it. We could hold it on a little bit better. But the reality is we've kind of hit the trifecta. You've got food costs going through the roof. You've got energy costs going through the roof. And now you just have the stock market kind of reflecting that. And it's just kind of hurting the market psychology-wise. Now, you got to remember, Dustin, that, the stock market is kind of doing what the Fed wants it to do. The reality is we have inflation. To control inflation, they're raising interest rates. That is goal of that is to slow down consumer spending. You're seeing housing start to slow down. Now you're also going to see slow down of consumers buying staple goods because of the higher costs, which in essence means these companies are not going to make as much profit, which in turn tends to drive down the stock market. So the market is reacting to the Fed. I'm fearful that we're going to see more downward pressure in the near term because we still haven't snuffed out all this inflation. So it's definitely going to be a volatile summer. Now, the one thing I do want to caution people is even though the grain markets really took on the chin today, we still have a lot of supply issues that could prop up down the line. But at least for today, the headline story was the outside markets.
You know, and we were talking about that this morning, Jim. Obviously, India shutting down its wheat exports, but we're looking at weather delays here in of any shape or form here in this country. Brazil, there was talk there might be an early frost there. Plus, they've been dry. Canada's been having problems. China's having problems. Everybody's having weather problems right now, and we could go open up that whole debate on weather, for hours and hours. But obviously, things are all kind of lining up in a perfect storm again.
Well, that's it. I mean, if you go back to the grain situation, the reality is we need all 89.5 million acres of corn. The survey suggests we get planted, and the trend yield that the government put at 177, which would match the best crop ever, just to meet the anticipated demand. Now, demand could be quite understated, according to some thoughts, simply because of the lack of exports coming out of the Ukraine due to the war. So, if we'd happen to lose some acres, and I think we are on the cusp of losing some acres, at least in the northern Corn Belt, due to prevent plant, that just makes it that much harder or much more important, to get a trend line yield at 177 or better. So if that starts looking like that's not going to happen, then the market's goal is to go into rationing mode, which is already, high prices. But the question is, how high do you even got to go? Because food is inelastic in general. So you need it to survive. So the situation could get very volatile. On the wheat side of the equation, we can't get the wheat out of the Ukraine from last year. We're worried about this year's crop. We were hoping that India would solve the world's problem, but India's crop is shrinking back right now. If it falls below 100 million, closer to 95 million, they will become net importers potentially. So take them out of the market. Now you're counting on the U.S. crop to fill in that void. And that doesn't look likely with the spring wheat not getting planted and hard red wheat suffering under drought conditions. So the world wheat supply is going to be very, very touch and go. And that's going to keep food prices high, which is going to keep volatility high until we kind of figure out a good production cycle somewhere down the line.
And of course, the livestock market usually reacts one way or another with those grain markets, of course, because you got to feed grain to these animals. And what are things looking like on that spectrum today?
Well, overall, you got to say the one thing that probably looks good today was a hog market. The June hogs had a nice sort of rally. They've held some technical support. It looks like they're putting a little of a head and shoulder bottom in. They left the gap coming out this week. So I think the hog market overall hopefully is showing a little bit of life that the other markets will follow. We are seeing the hog weights come down seasonally, which should help. The live cattle struggling a little bit. Like I said, I was a little bit concerned about, I was hopeful that we'd see some consumer demand hold in there for the cattle market as we go into summertime. There's a little bit of fear of that. But on the other hand, some of these travel companies are out here today saying even with the high inflation costs, they're still seeing the consumer wanting to go on vacation after being locked down for 2 years. So hopefully that's a good sign down the line that we could see some demand come back into the live cattle beef side of the equation, especially if the stock market would stabilize and the energy prices would go down. That would definitely do a lot to help the market.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Obviously, with the way inflation's going, and then the Fed making the moves they're making, they're basically, there might be some short-term pain, but they're basically trying to stave off long-term problems, like basically like we had in the '80s. Correct?
That's exactly what they're doing. I mean, the risk they've got is getting stagflation, where you have inflation continue to go up, but the economy going down in essence. But that's what they're trying to fight off right now. I think it's going to be tough for them. It would not be surprised if we go into a slight recession. That's what happened in the '80s. They put us into a recession to kind of kill off inflation. I don't think we'll go, if we would have a recession, personally, I don't think it's going to be that shallow. It won't be a deep one. It'll be more like a shallow one. So because there's still a ton of money on the sidelines right now after people got stimulus checks and saved money from the pandemic. But yeah, that is what the Fed's trying to do. After years and years, Dustin, of trying to support the market, they're essentially trying to snuff it out a little bit to slow down that demand, because that's essentially a very way to think about, inflation is too much money chasing too few of goods. So if you can get people to quit chasing that goods, that drives the price down a little bit, and eventually you get this market in a little bit better economic balance.
All right, Jim, well, a lot of great information as always. If folks want to talk strategies with you all at agmarket.net, how do they get in touch?
You can reach me directly at 815-665-0461 or any of the Ag Market team members at 844-424-6758, or just go to our website, agmarket.net, to sign up for our research.
All right, Jim, well, thanks so much, and we look forward to talking to you again in the near future.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me on.
That again was Jim McCormick of agmarket.net. Let's run down those closing numbers courtesy of the folks at Bar Chart. July corn was down 19 1/4 at 781 1/2. December new crop down 20 1/2 at 740 1/4. July soybeans down 15 1/4 at 1662 3/4. November new crop down 26 at 1499 1/2. Soy meal for August up 90 cents at 409.40. Soy oil up down 249. That's at 77.84. September Chicago wheat down 45 3/4 at 1233 even. Minneapolis down 38 1/4 at 1351 even. Kansas wheat is down 42 1/4 at 1327. September oats down 9 3/4 at 598 even. August live cattle down $1.77 at 131.70. August feeders down 97 cents at 165.80. June lean hogs up 95 cents at 106.10. Pork cutouts $1.27 higher at 112.35. And Class 3 milk was up 7 cents at 25.09. And that's been our Ag Market recap here on Ag Matters PM. We're going to take a short break and hear from our sponsors at the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, our intern, Averie Haskell, was at the governor's bill signing yesterday, and she had a chance to catch up with some of the biofuels supporters. We'll hear her report right after this message. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to AM/PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Yesterday, Governor Reynolds signed the Biofuels Access Bill, and Riley Smith and our intern Averie Haskell were there to talk with groups that support the bill and find out what this is going to mean for Iowa consumers and also the producers of our products. We'll turn things over right now to Averie Haskell.
Thanks, Dustin. Yesterday, Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds signed the Biofuels Access Bill in Prairie City, Iowa. After the signing, I had the opportunity to talk to Iowa Renewable Fuels Association Executive Director Monte Shaw about his feelings on the newly passed bill and what that would mean for consumers.
Hello, we are in Prairie City, Iowa. Governor Reynolds just signed the Biofuels Access Bill, and I am here with Monte Shaw, and I want to ask you how you feel about this bill. What does this mean for you?
Well, first of all, we're just very excited. This has been a 2-year process, but thanks to the governor's leadership, we got it over the finish line. It was really gratifying to see her sign it today. But what it really means is it means more consumers in Iowa are going to have access to lower cost biofuels. Right now, not everybody has access to higher blends like E15, or on the diesel side, the biodiesel blends like B20, B30. This bill over the next few years is going to make sure that every single Iowan has access to those lower cost fuels. And then, we're here on a farm today. And so this is also great news for farmers, because when we increase the use of biofuels, we increase the demand for their products. And that's what they want. They're productive, yields are going up every year, and so we need to find new markets that are reliable for those farmers out there, and give them the profits they need to take care of their families, to take care of the land, invest back into the stewardship practices they do in the land. So this has been great for families, great for farmers.
Perfect. And once this really gets kicked off, what is this going to look like for our carbon emissions and our energy also?
Yeah, so it is going to reduce carbon emissions. So that's one thing that we also talk about. Whether you're talking about tailpipe emissions, they're like cancer-causing emissions that are immediate, or whether you're talking greenhouse gas emissions, carbon emissions that are more the long-term challenges, ethanol and biodiesel reduce both. So this is going to be, as we go from 10% ethanol blends to 15% ethanol blends, from your car's engine, that doesn't seem like a lot more ethanol, and it isn't. The cars all run on it fine. But from an emission standpoint, that's 50% more ethanol. So that is a big reduction in carbon emissions, and that also means we're using more homegrown fuels, which means less dependence on foreign oil. And I know over the last decade, as we fracked more and we did more things domestically, that issue kind of dropped down on people's radar screens, but man, did it get brought home how we are still impacted by foreign oil markets, whether we're buying their oil or not, as Russia has gone into Ukraine and done the horrible things they're doing there, and then we all are paying the price at the pump. So we want to empower Iowans to use a lower cost homegrown fuel, and they're going to save money, help the environment, and help our energy security.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Anytime. Thank you for having us.
I also had the chance to talk with Iowa Biodiesel Board Executive Director Grant Kimberley about what this means to the biodiesel industry.
We're very pleased to see this bill make it over the finish line. It's been a couple years of a lot of hard work, a lot of conversations with all the various stakeholders throughout the biofuels and fuel market or industry. And so we're really happy to see this. It's going to be great for the biodiesel producers of Iowa, biodiesel usage and consumers of biodiesel, and also the farmers, the soybean farmers who provide a lot of the oil that goes into making biodiesel.
Right, and I know we've heard a lot about the ethanol impact on this bill. What specifically does the biodiesel do for this bill?
Well, this bill does a lot of things. It moves the biodiesel tax credits to higher blends. So now we're going to see tax credits for moving from, instead of B5 and B11 blends, now from B11 to B20 and even a B30 tax credit. So that's 5, 7, and 10 cents a gallon. We also moved the fuel tax differential, which is the fuel tax on road fuel, is 3 cents less if a consumer would choose B20 blends, and so that's going to incentivize more high blends of biodiesel for B20. And then we also doubled the production tax credit for the biodiesel production plants. There's 11 plants in the state of Iowa. We're the nation's largest biodiesel producer. We produce over 400 million gallons of biodiesel, and so this is going to help make sure that our industry in Iowa is the most competitive of all the industries across the country. And so that's going to be a 4 cent a gallon credit up to the first 25 million gallons of biodiesel production. So there's a lot of aspects to this bill on a biodiesel perspective as well.
Awesome. And what does that look like for the Soybean Association exactly?
Well, biodiesel research shows that biodiesel adds at least 13% of the net market value to the price of soybeans. And so, you look at today's prices, that's well over a couple dollars a bushel to the price of soybeans. Biodiesel utilizes parts of the soybean oil that's historically been more of the waste feedstock part of it, but it adds more value to the oil side, which means there's more value in the price that processors can bid to farmers when they're selling their soybeans, and then it makes it available for them to make more soybean meal, which is good for the livestock producer.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That again was IRFA Executive Director Monte Shaw and the Iowa Biodiesel Board Executive Director Grant Kimberley. Here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, I am Averie Haskell.
Thanks, Avery. Now let's take a look at that ag weather outlook. Well, the clouds took their dear sweet time clearing out of this area of Iowa. The sun tried to battle through for most of the morning, but the clouds quickly snuffed it out. Now, there is a chance of that sun returning, but it's going to bring a lot of heat with it. Let's take a look at what the National Weather Service has in store for us over the next 24 hours. Well, the clouds finally gave way and the sun came out here across most of the state. We saw highs anywhere from 70 to 82 degrees. Now tonight, partly cloudy skies will happen across most of the state. We'll see highs in the mid-50s to the low 60s. And tomorrow, though, sunny skies, it's going to get breezy and a lot warmer, and we'll see highs across the state of 85 to about 90. Taking a look at the affiliate weather map for tomorrow in Cherokee, you'll see sunny skies at 82. Shenandoah, sunny skies at 87. Des Moines, the hot spot, sunny skies at 90. Waterloo, sunny at 85. Albia, sunny and 86. And Clinton, out in the east central part of the state, will be sunny and 85. For more detailed forecasts in your part of the state, tune to your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate. And that's been our ag weather outlook. When we come back after this short break, I sit back down with Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig to get an update on where things are with high-path avian influenza. This is Ag Matters PM.
As we approach planting season, make sure you stay safe and share the road with your local farmers. Slow-moving tractors with large planters occupy a lot of space on the road, so stay patient and follow at a distance of around 50 feet. You should never, ever try to pass them at a bridge, intersection, hill, or curve. It's far better than putting yourself or someone else at risk. So please, stay safe and remember to tip your hat to your local farmer this planting season. This message was brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.
Welcome back to AM/PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. When the first signs of bird flu were detected earlier this year, everybody in the upper Midwest, including Iowa, started to panic just a little bit. We had flashbacks to 2015. Now, while there have been some cases found in the state, things haven't been quite as bad as they were just 7 years ago. I talked with Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig to find out what's been going on and what's been the secret to success this go round. Another thing that we're going to be talking about, and I'm surprised we don't have a banner behind you there of how many days without a case of HPAI, but in the scheme of things, since we last talked, there has been quite a diminish. Now, there has been a few here and there, but at least here within our borders, it seems like things have quieted down.
Look, it's true that we haven't had a commercial site go positive since the end of April, and then we had a backyard flock in Bremer County at the beginning of May, and the trend is good. We're on the right side of this. I think, hopefully that we know that there's still a risk that we could have additional infected premises, but the trend line is in the right direction. I think we are on the backside. There's a lot of cleanup and a lot of work still going on those sites. And of course, ultimately, we want to get these producers cleared and back open for business as quickly as we can. Unfortunately, though, we have seen that as you go further north and west from Iowa, you are continuing to see additional cases. And again, that's evidence that this virus really is carried by those migratory birds as they fly north. So, I think the good news is that we're still we're on the right side of this. Though I would really encourage folks, stay vigilant, keep biosecurity top of mind. It's important all the time, but certainly as we finish up the spring here, I want to remind folks to keep that top of mind.
And of course, when we look back on this in a year or so, we're going to obviously analyze, was it worse than 2015 or was it just that we were more prepared? And if we look at it from that standpoint, I mean, how much of this was lessons learned the hard way the last time we went around that we're able to learn for this time?
Absolutely. And we will learn things. We already know that there's things that we've learned in this outbreak, and we're keeping notes of those as we go along. But we will do a look back, so to speak, after this incident is completely done. We did learn lessons, as you say, the hard way. We went through it in 15. 15 still ranks as the largest foreign animal disease outbreak in U.S. history. It does not appear that this outbreak will eclipse that one. So I think it will remain number one. We learned that we had to act quicker to detect, and then act quicker to depopulate, and then effectively clean and disinfect and dispose of all the material on that site. Those were lessons that learned, and the hard work paid off. But I would tell you, credit to the producers. We had a lot of movement from farm to farm, lateral movement back in 2015. We have not seen that in this outbreak. Largely, it has been independent wild bird introductions. And that tells me that producers have really done, not that they've got biosecurity plans, but that they are implementing them every single day. And that is hard work. And it's a testament, again, that we're seeing the benefits of the hard work over the last couple of years.
So let's remind everybody, I made mention of, having a countdown there, but it's coming down to a 30-day countdown every time there is a discovery. And it's been a little bit. Remind our viewers here exactly what's going on with the policy that IDALS has in place right now.
Right. In an effort to control the spread, we prohibited or put a temporary prohibition on live bird exhibitions, shows, certainly like you think of at the county fair or the state fair. And we said that we would not allow those until 30 days have passed since the last infected site was announced. So again, we're talking early May was when the last infected premise was announced. That started a 30-day clock. And so, yes, as we flip the calendar into June, if we have no additional cases, we will once again allow those shows, which is good news. I'm hopeful that we'll still be able to have some poultry shows at county fairs this year. But time will tell. But we are clicking our way through the days here, and I'm really hopeful that we'll be able to lift that prohibition.
And that again was Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig. And just like that, we're at the end of today's show of Ag Matters PM. We thank you for joining us. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, and find all our video content as well as past episodes of AM PM on our YouTube channel. You can also sign up for our free twice daily market podcasts through Amazon, Apple, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Averie Haskell and Riley Smith, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.